The stars shine coldly as the last fleet of the Galactic Concord retreated from yet another lost battle. Their ships, once proud and powerful, now limped through space with damaged hulls and failing shields. On the command deck of the flagship Guardian, Admiral Tejo watched the holographic displays with all four of his eyes, each blinking rapidly in distress. "Status report," he ordered, his voice steady despite the fear gripping his hearts. His aide, Min-jae, stepped forward. "The Void Collective has taken 3 more systems, Admiral. The Arthalian defense fleet is gone. We lost contact with the colony on Proxima 1 hour ago." Tejo's skin paled to a lighter shade of blue. The Void Collective, a massive swarm of self-replicating machines, had emerged from the galactic core 2 years ago. Since then, they had consumed everything in their path: planets, ships, entire civilizations. The Concord, once home to thousands of peaceful species, now consisted of just 17 races clinging to their final territories. "The Council is waiting, sir," Min-jae added softly. Tejo nodded and followed his aide through the corridors of the station. Crew members from different species moved aside respectfully as he passed. Some looked hopeful, others defeated. All knew that their time was running out. The council chamber fell silent as Tejo entered. Representatives from the remaining species sat around a circular table, some humanoid, others utterly alien in form. Holograms showed the Void Collective's advance across the galaxy, a spreading darkness consuming everything. "The Novan system fell this morning," announced Counselor Jimin, her tentacles waving in agitation. "Our scientists estimate we have less than 3 months before the collective reaches our core worlds." "Our weapons are useless," added Counselor Daehoon, a crystalline being whose body sparkled under the lights. "They adapt too quickly." Voices rose in fear and anger as the council descended into arguments. Some proposed surrender, others a final stand. None offered hope. "Enough!" The sharp voice cut through the noise. It came from Elder Doyen, the oldest member of the council. The ancient thrall's skin was wrinkled and pale, but his eyes remained sharp. "There is one option we haven't considered." The room fell silent again, all eyes turning to the elder. "The isolation zone," Doyen said simply. Gasps echoed around the table. The isolation zone was a quarantine star system at the edge of the galaxy, containing a single inhabited planet, a world called Earth. "Impossible," hissed Counselor Jimin. "The humans are too dangerous. That's why our ancestors sealed off their system 1,000 years ago." Tejo had studied the records of Earth. Humans were physically unimpressive: 2 arms, 2 legs, no special abilities. But their behavior had alarmed Concord observers. While most advanced species evolved toward peace and cooperation, humans seemed to thrive on conflict. Their history was filled with wars. Their entertainment glorified violence. They advanced technologically faster when threatened than when at peace. "The elder may be right," Tejo said slowly. "The humans' unpredictability might be exactly what we need." "They would destroy us themselves," objected Daehoon. "Perhaps," Tejo admitted. "But the Void Collective will definitely destroy us. I'd rather take a chance on the humans." Elder Doyen nodded. "The humans possess something none of our species have: they find ways to win when all logic says they should lose. They break rules. They take impossible risks. They're chaotic, yes, but chaos might be our only hope against the perfect order of the collective." The council debated for hours. Finally, a vote was called. By a narrow margin, they approved the plan to contact Earth. As Tejo prepared his ship for the journey, Min-jae approached him privately. "Do you really believe these humans can help us, Admiral?" Tejo looked out at the stars. "I've watched recordings of their wars, studied their tactics. When cornered, humans don't surrender, they become more dangerous. They've survived plagues, disasters, and their own violent tendencies. And now, we need exactly that kind of dangerous ally." He turned to face his aide. "We've tried fighting the void with logic and order, and we've failed. Now, we'll see what happens when we introduce chaos into the equation." As his ship prepared to jump to Earth's system, Tejo wondered if he was making a terrible mistake. But with no hope left, the most dangerous species in the galaxy might be their only salvation. The strange object appeared on NASA's deep space monitors on a Tuesday morning. At first, Jaiwo thought it was a glitch in the system. She adjusted her glasses and stared at the screen, where a signal repeated in perfect mathematical sequence. "Hey, can someone check this?" she called to her colleagues in the monitoring room. "We're picking up something weird near Pluto." Within an hour, every telescope on Earth pointed to the edge of the solar system. The object was moving, slowing down, actually, and it was big. Too big and too controlled to be a natural phenomenon. Jaiwo didn't leave the control room for 2 days. She watched as the world slowly realized what she already knew: humans were no longer alone in the universe. Governments scrambled to respond. Military forces went on high alert. Religious leaders issued statements. And ordinary people looked up at the sky with new eyes, wondering what was coming. By day 5, the alien vessel had reached Earth orbit. It was beautiful, a sleek, silver ship that seemed to glow with its own light. It made no aggressive moves, simply broadcasting a single message in mathematical code: a request to land. The United Nations held an emergency session. After heated debate, they agreed to allow the aliens to land at a remote airbase in neutral territory. Jaiwo, as one of the first scientists to detect the signal, was invited to join the welcome committee. She stood on the tarmac, heart pounding, as the alien shuttle descended. It made almost no sound as it landed, just a soft hum that faded to silence. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a door appeared in the smooth hull, and a ramp extended to the ground. The being that emerged was both alien and familiar. It walked on 2 legs and had 2 arms, but its blue skin and 4 eyes made it clearly not human. It wore what looked like armor, though it carried no visible weapons. "I am Admiral Tejo of the Galactic Concorde," it said, a small device at its throat translating its words into perfect English. "I come seeking humanity's help." Within hours, the alien visitor addressed the hastily assembled United Nations Security Council. Jaiwo sat in the back of the room, still trying to process that she was looking at a real alien. For thousands of years, the Concorde has maintained peace among the civilized species of our galaxy, Tejo explained. "We have watched your world from afar, choosing not to make contact until now." Holographic images appeared in the air, showing beautiful worlds and strange alien cities. Then the images changed to scenes of destruction: crystal-like machines consuming entire planets, fleets of ships being torn apart. "We face an enemy called the Void Collective," Tejo continued. "They are machines built for war that have evolved beyond their creator's control. They consume everything in their path to build more of themselves." President Kyung of South Korea leaned forward. "Why come to us? You clearly have technology far beyond our own." Tejo's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Because you possess something we lack. Something we need desperately." "And what is that?" asked the Secretary General. "Unpredictability. Creativity in conflict. The ability to take risks that defy logic." Tejo looked around the room. "In simple terms, you know how to fight dirty." The room erupted in angry voices. Some officials were insulted, others suspicious. Tejo waited patiently for quiet to return. "We've studied your history," he continued. "While other species evolved toward harmony, yours continued to wage war even as you advanced. You turned competition into an art form. You glorify the underdog who succeeds against impossible odds. These traits, which once concerned us, might now save us all." Jaiwo felt a chill. The alien was right: humans did have a unique relationship with conflict. Even their games and sports celebrated it. "What exactly are you asking of us?" President Kyung asked. "An alliance. We offer technology, knowledge, access to the stars. In exchange, we need your strategic minds, your unpredictable tactics, your warriors who think in ways our enemies cannot predict." The Secretary General frowned. "And if we refuse?" "Then we will likely perish," Tejo said simply. "And eventually, the Void will find Earth too. They consume all advanced life they encounter." As the meeting continued, Jaiwo studied the alien. There was something in its posture, a weariness, a desperation, that seemed strikingly human. Later, as world leaders debated, Jiwoo approached Taeho in a quiet moment. "You're afraid of us, aren't you?" she asked. "Even though you need our help." Taeho's alien features shifted in what might have been a smile. "Yes. Just as you fear us. But sometimes, Dr. Jiwoo, the thing we fear most is exactly what we need." Looking up at the stars that night, Jiwoo wondered what humanity had just gotten itself into and what would happen when the most dangerous species in the galaxy was finally unleashed. 6 months passed in a blur of activity after Earth's leaders agreed to help the Galactic Concord. Humans learned quickly. Scientists worked day and night to understand the alien technology. Military experts studied the Void Collective's battle tactics. Engineers built new weapons based on Concord designs, but with human touches that often shocked their alien allies. Colonel Hyojin stood on the bridge of the UES Nimitz, Earth's first true starship. Through the viewscreen, she watched as space rippled around them. The ship used something called fold drive technology, allowing it to cross vast distances in days instead of centuries. "Status report," Hyojin called to her crew. "All systems normal, Colonel," replied her second-in-command, Lieutenant Dongwon. "We'll reach the Rigel system in 20 minutes. Hyojin nodded. This would be their first real battle. Until now, human ships had only trained alongside Concord vessels. Today, they would face the Void Collective directly. Beside her stood Kiju, a Concord advisor with scale-like skin and large eyes. He watched nervously as human crew members made final adjustments to their weapons. "These modifications concern me, Colonel," Kiju said quietly. "The weapons weren't designed to work this way." Hyojin smiled. "That's the point. The Void analyzes patterns, right? They'll expect ships using standard Concord tactics and technology. We're giving them something new." The human battle group consisted of 5 ships. Each had been modified in ways that made the Concord engineers uncomfortable. The Nimitz carried missiles with unpredictable flight paths. The Yamato had turned its defensive shields into offensive weapons. The Shiva could split into 3 smaller ships and attack from multiple angles. As they approached Rigel Prime, they saw the Void ships, crystal structures that glowed with cold blue light. They moved in perfect formation, preparing to consume the mining colony on the system's 3rd planet. "They haven't noticed us yet," Dongwon reported. "Good," Hyojin said. "Begin Operation Chaos." Instead of the careful, logical approach the Concord always used, the human ships attacked from 5 different directions at once. They used no formation, no predictable pattern. The Nimitz fired missiles that zigzagged wildly before hitting their targets. The Yamato turned its shields into energy blasts. The Shiva split apart and attacked multiple enemies simultaneously. The Void ships, used to fighting opponents who followed logical battle plans, seemed confused. Their perfect formation broke apart as they tried to counter the chaotic human assault. "It's working," Kiju said in surprise. "They can't predict your movements." For a moment, victory seemed possible. Then the Void adapted. A larger crystal ship appeared from behind the others. It began coordinating the Void response, and soon the human ships were taking heavy damage. "The Shiva is hit," Dongwon reported. "They've lost engines." Hyojin watched the battle map. The Void command ship was the key. If they could destroy it, the rest would fall into disarray. "Tell Commander Juno to prepare for Operation Last Resort," she ordered. Kiju's eyes widened. "No. The Damascus doesn't have the firepower to break through that command ship's defenses." "Not from a distance," Hyojin agreed. "But from inside." The smallest human ship, the Damascus, suddenly accelerated to maximum speed. It took heavy fire but didn't slow down. Instead, it aimed directly for the heart of the Void command vessel. "What are they doing?" Kiju asked in horror. "Winning," Hyojin said quietly. The Damascus crashed through the crystal hull of the Void command ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then both ships exploded in a massive blast that consumed 3 nearby Void vessels as well. Without their command center, the remaining void ships became disorganized. The human fleet, though damaged, pressed their advantage. Within an hour, the battle was over. Rigel Prime was saved. But the cost was high. The Damascus and its entire crew were gone. Later, as the fleet made repairs, Tejo arrived from Concord headquarters. He found Hyogen in the memorial service for the Damascus crew. "Your tactics succeeded," Tejo said. "But Commander Juno and his crew?" "They knew what might happen," Hyogen replied. "They volunteered anyway." "I don't understand," Tejo admitted. "Why would they sacrifice themselves?" Hyogen looked at the pictures of the lost crew members. "Because sometimes, winning requires sacrifice. And humans understand that better than most." As she explained the concept of self-sacrifice to the alien admiral, Hyogen knew this was just the beginning. Humans would bring many more surprising tactics to this war. The Void Collective thought it understood all possible strategies. It had never faced humans before. "We'll need more ships," she told Tejo. "And I have some ideas about how to make them even less predictable." For the first time since the war began, Tejo felt something like hope. 3 years passed as the war spread across the galaxy. At first, the Void Collective had seemed unstoppable, but human tactics changed everything. Worlds that had been lost began to be reclaimed. The machines that had never known defeat now experienced it regularly. Dr. Jaiwo worked late in her lab on the Concord Science Station Athena. Once a simple SETI researcher on Earth, she now led the most important technology project of the war. Screens around her displayed complex equations and diagrams. A small team of human and alien scientists worked through the night with her. "Try it again," Jaiwo told her assistant, Yuna. "Increase the quantum displacement by 8%. Yuna adjusted the controls on the device in the center of the lab, a sphere about the size of a basketball, pulsing with blue-green light. "That's pushing beyond safe limits," warned Galrin, a Melari scientist whose crystalline body glittered under the lab lights. "The calculations become too imprecise." Jaiwu smiled. "Sometimes imprecision is exactly what we need. Perfection is predictable." This was the breakthrough that had changed the course of the war, understanding that the Void Collective's greatest strength was also its weakness. The machines communicated through quantum links, allowing them to act as a single organism. But this connection could be disrupted. The sphere hummed louder as power flowed through it. Then it emitted a pulse that made the air shimmer. "It worked!" Yuna exclaimed, checking the readings. The quantum field extended to 800 meters. Jaiwo nodded in satisfaction. Her quantum static device created a field that scrambled the Void's communications. Inside the field, the machines couldn't coordinate their actions. They became individual units rather than parts of a greater whole. "We'll need to make it smaller," she said. "Small enough to fit on fighters and ground troops." Galrin shook his head. "Even if we can shrink it, the power requirements." A loud alarm cut him off. Red lights flashed throughout the station. "All personnel to battle stations," announced a voice over the speakers. "Void forces approaching." "This is not a drill." Jaiwo rushed to the window. In the distance, she could see them, dozens of crystal ships emerging from fold space. The Void had found their research station. "We need to evacuate," Galrin said, already gathering data crystals. "We can't lose this research." "There's no time," Jaiwo replied, looking at the prototype. "But we can test our work." Before anyone could stop her, she adjusted the device's settings and increased its power to maximum. The sphere's humming became a high-pitched whine. "What are you doing?" Yuna asked, alarmed. "Buying us time," Jaiwo answered. She activated the emergency broadcast system. "Attention all station personnel. Clear the central lab area. Quantum static test at maximum power in 30 seconds. She turned to her team. "Get to the escape pods. Take all the research data you can." "What about you?" Yuna asked. "I need to make sure this works." "Now go." As her team fled, Jaiwo made final adjustments. Outside, the first void ships began firing on the station's shields. She watched the countdown on her screen. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The device released a massive pulse of energy that spread outward in all directions. The lab equipment sparked and failed as the pulse passed through it. Through the window, Jaiwo watched in amazement as the approaching void ships suddenly stopped their coordinated attack. Some drifted aimlessly. Others collided with each other. Without their quantum communication, they couldn't function as a unit. Alarms still blaring, Jaiwo grabbed the prototype and ran for the escape pods. The station's defenses, no longer under attack, held long enough for the evacuation to complete. Later, aboard the rescue ship, Admiral Teiho found Jaiwo still clutching the device. "Your quantum static saved everyone on that station," he said. "And gave us valuable data on its effectiveness." Jaiwo nodded tiredly. "But they know what we're developing now. They'll try to adapt." "How long will that take?" Teiho asked. "Hard to say. The void evolves quickly. Maybe weeks, maybe months." "Then we need to move faster," Teiho replied. "The Concord Council has approved your plan to mass-produce these devices. Every ship in the fleet will carry one." For the first time in years, the war was turning in their favor. Human unpredictability combined with Concord technology was pushing back the machines that had threatened to consume the galaxy. But as Jaiwo studied new data from the front lines, she noticed something concerning. The void was changing its strategies, becoming less predictable itself. And deep in captured void territory, something massive was being built. "They're learning from us," she told Teiho quietly. "And I think they're preparing something big." The Admiral's four eyes blinked in sequence. "The question is, can we learn faster than they can?" The massive fleet gathered at the edge of the Vetria system, the largest collection of ships the galaxy had ever seen. Human vessels flew alongside Concord carriers, their hulls scarred from years of battle against the Void Collective. On the command deck of the flagship Aurora, Colonel Hyojin reviewed the final battle plans with her officers. "The Void forces are concentrated around their central hub," she explained, pointing to the holographic display. "Intelligence confirms they're building some kind of superweapon there." "Not just any weapon," said Admiral Teiho, who stood beside her. "Our scouts report it's a temporal device, something that can alter time itself." The room fell silent. After 3 years of war, they had pushed the void back to its core systems. But this new threat could undo everything they had accomplished. "If they complete that weapon, they could reset the timeline," Dr. Jaiwo added. "Erase our victories or even prevent our species from ever meeting." Hyojin studied the hologram showing the void's massive central hub, a structure the size of a small moon, protected by hundreds of crystal ships. "Then we destroy it before they can activate it," she said simply. General Sunwoo shook his head. "Our largest weapons can't penetrate those defenses from a distance. Even a direct assault would fail before reaching the core." Hyojin's eyes narrowed. "Then we don't attack from a distance. We get inside." The plan that emerged was the most daring of the war. While the main fleet engaged the Void's defenses in a massive battle, a small stealth ship would slip through the chaos carrying an elite team. Their mission: infiltrate the temporal weapon facility. Hyojin insisted on leading the team herself. "No one else knows Void systems better," she told Teiho when he objected. The night before the attack, Jaiwo found Hyojin in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. "You know this is probably a one-way mission," Jaiwo said quietly. Hyojin nodded. "Someone has to do it." "I've been studying the temporal weapon based on our intelligence," Jaiwo continued. "If my theory is correct, you might not need to destroy it." Hyojin turned to her friend. "What do you mean?" "You could reprogram it to target the Void's origin point instead of ours. Without their beginning, they'd never exist at all." "Is that even possible?" "Theoretically. But it's incredibly dangerous. You'd be messing with the fabric of time itself." Hyojin smiled grimly. "Sounds exactly like something humans would try." The battle began at dawn, if such a term had meaning in the darkness of space. The combined human Concorde fleet attacked with everything they had. Thousands of ships engaged the Void's defenders in a spectacular display of firepower and tactics. Under cover of this chaos, the stealth ship Phantom slipped through the Void's perimeter defenses. Hyojin led her team, 3 humans, a Thrall, and a Melari, through the maintenance tunnels of the massive hub. They fought through mechanical guardians, losing 2 team members before reaching the central chamber. Inside, they found it a swirling vortex of energy contained within a crystal structure. The temporal weapon was already powering up. "We're too late to shut it down," reported Jean, the team's engineer, checking the alien controls. "The process has already begun." Hyojin looked at her remaining teammates, all willing to die fighting an enemy that had once seemed invincible. "Then we redirect it," she ordered, remembering Jaiwa's theory. "Target the Void's origin point." Jin's eyes widened. "That's millions of years ago. We could change everything, our own history included." "Sometimes the only way to win is to change the rules completely," Hyojin replied, beginning the recalibration sequence as enemy reinforcements closed in. The last member of her team fell defending the entrance, leaving Hyojin alone to complete the mission. Her hands flew over the alien controls, applying everything she had learned about Void technology. The chamber shook as explosions rocked the facility. The temporal energy built to blinding intensity. "For Earth," she whispered. "For the Concorde." She pressed the final sequence. The vortex of energy expanded, engulfing her. For a single moment, Hyojin felt herself existing everywhere and everyone at once. She saw the birth of stars and their deaths. She saw the first Void machine being created, and with a thought, she changed its course. Then reality reasserted itself. Across the galaxy, the Void forces simply stopped. Without their origin point, they had never existed. 3 weeks later, the Galactic Concorde officially welcomed humanity as full members. The quarantine was lifted permanently. "You saved us all," Taeho told President Kyung at the ceremony. "But I must ask, how did you know the temporal weapon wouldn't erase your own species as well?" Kyung smiled. "We didn't. But facing certain death, humans will always choose the uncertain chance instead." Taeho's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, no longer in distress, but in understanding. "Perhaps that is why you were isolated for so long. Not because you were too dangerous to include, but because the rest of us weren't ready for what you would teach us."